Hey, it's JC. Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we explore the urban lifestyle and jungle survival. Today we're going to look at a parang from MY Parang. It is a made in Malaysia parang, and this is the Village Chandong. First, if you watch this channel regularly but have not subscribed, please do so to help the channel out. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, do check out my shop links in the pinned comment or description below. You can even join as a channel member. Thanks a lot. If you follow my channel, you know I like parangs. I'm always testing various parangs and I'm seeing how they fare in the jungle environment, which is where I'm in. And MY Parang is probably Malaysia's best production brand of parangs in terms of the blade steel, the handle, and overall designs and patterns that they offer for different needs and preferences. Now, before I show you this Village Parang, let me show you another parang that I had for several years and used. This is an 8-inch blade. This is longer at 10 inches, and this pattern is known as the Duku Chandong. That's right. It is from a part of Borneo, and it's got really historical roots, and I've talked about this previously in other videos. But this pattern I found really good generally for bushcraft and hiking because you do have that kind of a swell. It's good for chopping, and this particular one has a good blade. You also have an unsharpened area, which is common with traditional parangs, so they can choke up and do fine work. And for the longest time, I felt that the 8-inch blade was ideal for bushcraft and hiking. It's lightweight, but it is capable. Over time, I felt that I wanted something longer, and I've progressed to a 10-inch long blade, and that's what a lot of my recent parangs have been. And I find that as you get more familiar with a big blade like that and using it, you get more comfortable with the size. Of course, it also depends on your own physical stature. Are you tall? Do you have long limbs, big hands, small hands? Can you carry a lot of weight? And even just using it, do you prefer something much heavier or something lighter? So I would always generally recommend people who are beginning or people with smaller hands or just smaller in size to get that 8-inch format. I think that works very well, and I still stand by that. That's a good starting parang, especially something like this. So this over here is a 10-inch parang, and it's called the Village Chandong. So both of them are Chandongs in the sense that is really the name for a large blade in Malay. And they're similar, I guess you could say patterned. You can see the similarities, but this one definitely has a much more acute angle. This blade, slightly smaller, doesn't have that belly, it's actually straight, and this one is curved, right? So there are similarities, but the Duku Chandong is a bit different from this Village Chandong. So I'm going to move this aside, and I'll just talk about the parang itself. Now, why did I decide to get this particular parang? As mentioned, I have now been using 10-inch parangs, so I was looking for a 10-inch MY Parang. That is a parang made by MY Parang. However, I didn't want to get the Duku. I thought of trying something else, and I felt this Village Chandong really fits the needs for general bushcraft and hiking. Now, this is a fairly recent model. It was released in 2022, and I thought the pattern works very well because it tries to combine, I think, the best features of a Duku Chandong and something like a lading parang, which is thinner, used as self-defense but very good for clearing. So a parang like this, because it's slightly thinner, and I think the profile is overall thinner and has that really nice acute bend, this works well as a general purpose knife, because when we think about parang in a jungle environment, we do try to see it as a 1-2 option. Now, I'm an advocate, of course, of the 3-knife system. I've talked about that a lot, but if I were to only have to bring out one tool out into the jungle, like the Orang Asli or the natives in this part of the world, they would bring a parang. And this traditional style parang works very well because it's got an unsharpened area for you to choke up to do fine work. You can still chop with this, and you can clear with it, which is an essential tool or task that you need in the jungle environment if you are bashing through or doing clearing. So this, to me, combines the best elements of the Duku and the lading to create a lightweight, very nimble tool that can still chop and can still do fine work. So let's talk about some specs. So it's a 10-inch blade. I believe this is a 6mm thickness in terms of the steel, but there's a distal tapering, so you can see it actually tapers. So it's thick here in the handle, and the stock goes all the way down, thins down, which is not common in parangs. And this is a convex grind. I have stropped this, so there is a secondary bevel already. So there is, you can see, this is about 4 inches in terms of unsharpened area. I've talked about how, when I talked about the Duku, that I felt that it was too much unsharpened, because if you talk about 8-inch blade, if you already take up 3 inches of unsharpened area, then you have only 5 inches of real estate when it comes to a sharpened blade. And I found that just a bit of a pity. And I do understand, you know, the reason is so that you can choke up, but in this case I felt 2 inches was enough. You could still choke up this way. However, with the longer format, I think that's a benefit of a 10-inch or even a 12-inch version of this. Now with this, about 4 inches of unsharpened area, you know, I can choke up really well, but I still have ample, you know, about 6 inches or so of a sharpened blade. So I think that works very well, and that's why I again advocate now this 10-inch format. I should mention that this particular Village Chandong also comes in a 12-inch blade, but I think this is good. This fits in a pack, easy to transport, and has that nimbleness and that good weight to blade ratio for the effectiveness in chopping, cutting, and slicing. This is not a full tang parang. Now, all traditional Malaysian parangs would be a rat tang. Now, this goes in all the way, and there's a cross-section photo over here, which I took at the MY Parang booth at an expo recently. And you can see it goes in fairly deep, but not all the way. They showed this cross-section to show how they applied the epoxy and how deep it goes. And you can see they do really good work now with the epoxy, very neat. So it's really snug inside. In addition, they do have a brass pin that goes in over here this way that locks the blade in, and then they put on this collar. Now, it doesn't mean that this cannot fail, because it is a rat tang. Over time, there is a possibility that it can go loose, and the brass pin is not to make it not go loose, but it's more of a safety feature so that the blade doesn't come flying out. But I should mention this, in all these years, I've talked to many people, and I've never heard of anyone who has experienced this blade coming loose or coming out for this, I would say, generation of parangs. Maybe the very first generations from 10 years ago with plastic handles, yeah, the blade has come out, but not with this beechwood recycled material handle. It has fared very well, and I've had no problems as well with my Duku Chandong, and I doubt I'm going to have problems with this. One reason I think is, while this can chop, I limit my chopping with the parang unless I need. I'm very confident to batten with this, slice through and clear if I need, but if I'm really cutting through logs and wood, I will be using my folding saw. I will not be using a parang unless it's a last resort. So that's just something to consider. If you are a stickler for full tang parangs, then maybe that's a point of consideration. But I can tell you from my own experience and just talking to people all over Malaysia, very serious outdoor people, and also the casual hobbyists, that have had no problem with this generation of parang in terms of having it loose inside. And that's just due to the good fit and finish, the overall quality control, just really solid. So overall, a great parang. I think the only point of criticism, as I've mentioned with the Duku Chandong and in general, would be their sheaths. Now, the sheaths are patterned after the traditional sheaths, which are made of wood or bamboo, and the parangs just slot inside. In the traditional sheaths, there isn't even any retention strap. Now, because this is nylon, there is a bit of a bite, I would say, and just due to the construction, due to the stiffness, it doesn't really shake. Now, of course, if you're going to be using a lot of momentum, this might be able to rattle out. Now, this is actually a better fit than my Duku over here. The Duku is actually, doesn't have such a good fit. However, this one is better. Now, many people do use the MY Parang sheath. You can see there is a molly kind of system where you can attach it to your pack, or you can just use this belt loop, which is like a safety belt material, and you've got this retention strap. And it's, as you can see, it's reasonably okay, but yes, it can shake and come out, and some people might have a problem with that. So personally, I do not like the sheath. I like something more secure. So what I did was I went to what I considered the best custom sheath maker in Malaysia, Meran Knives. He makes excellent sheaths. He's made many sheaths for me, and I got him to make one for this based on kind of a design pattern that I came up with and some features that I wanted, and he did a phenomenal job. Just look at that sheath. It is a work of art. And I should mention, I did spend more to get this raptor style Kydex finish, this carbon fiber decor. Totally not functional, just looks cool. But I've made several sheaths with him, and I decided, you know, let him have some creativity and go all the way, spend a bit more for him to make a really nice sheath. And this is all 2mm Kydex. This is olive drop, and there is a liner as well. My general specifications always to have drainage holes, which he has, the proper spacing of 0.75 inches apart in terms of the holes over here, and then 1.5 inches over here if I want to put any attachments. And even went the extra step to put matching washers over here, so just makes it look so complete. And he form fitted it over the parang, and then as per my request, a very nice thumb ramp as well, and that locks in really solid. And to deploy, just pull that out, that comes in, and this just works so well. And you can see this is kind of my design specification for the holder. I didn't want a belt clip. I didn't just want a loop. I always use this. This is a system I've been using for several years now. There is a loop, so generally if you get someone to make, let's say, a sheath with a belt loop, just shorten the belt loop and then put in a carabiner. And this goes onto a Grimlock kind of a carabiner on my belt. And then now I do have a kind of a dangler system, which sits very well by my side, but when I need, I can just turn and deploy the parang easily, and I can sheath it easily and put it back in place. So that is my system, but there's also another reason why I have this setup. A lot of times I also like to sling my parang. So I use a tactical sling, and the sling would just connect to this, and I can put that and cross carry it on my body. So really I have that flexibility of belt carry or sling carry with this simple system, and that has served me pretty well. So I'm really excited to bring this out to the field, use it, and of course just carry this sheath system as well. So let's go out to the field, we'll do some tests, and I'll share with you my closing thoughts out in the jungle. So I'm out in the jungle and I have tested the Village Chandong. It has performed up to my expectation. When it came to clearing, absolutely not a problem. It is nimble, it is light enough to cut. Blade geometry is great, so it cuts through very easily. Now when you're clearing, you do want to identify what you want to clear and just try to slash through as cleanly as you can, and do as little cuts as possible, because it is very tiring to clear and to bash through a jungle. So you don't just want to randomly cut and slash at anything you see. You want to see where the branches or the vines are originating from, and to see where you can cut so that you could actually just cut it and then use your hands or the parang to physically move the branches out of the way. So when it came to clearing, absolutely not a problem. Chopping, even though this is not designed as a chopper, it still could chop. Granted, the wood I was chopping was a bit rotten. It's hardwood, but it's rotten. But it took about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to cut through that piece of wood. Again, not designed as a chopper, but a parang is considered a all-in-one tool for the jungle. So you do want it to have chopping capabilities in the event you need to. Maybe you lost your saw broke, then you need to use your parang. So that still works. Battening, obviously not a problem as well. Blade construction, absolutely fine. This is solid even though it's rat tang, and as mentioned in the studio, I've never heard anyone who has a problem with the tang coming loose, and battening was not a problem. What I think was harder was doing fine work like feather sticking. Maybe it could be the blade geometry or thickness behind the blade. It is thick blade stock. It is of course harder to control than a small knife, which would be much easier to feather stick, but it still could do the job if you have to. Now again, the parang is not designed for such fine work, but you can do so in a pinch if you need to do so. Now after I feather sticked with the parang, I just switched to my fixed blade to see if there was a big difference, and yes, definitely there was a significant difference in the curls, the ease of getting the curls, the thinness, and just overall control. So just bear that in mind. As a 1-2 option, definitely it can perform all the tasks that you need, but that's why I've always advocate that 3-knife system. So overall, I think this is a great parang. In fact, I think this is probably my top 1 or 2. I'm still using the Yakare, but I'm going to be carrying this for some time. I'm really happy with the sheath. And just for sake of comparison, here's a 12-inch Duku Chandong. This is my buddy's. I have the 8-inch as I showed in the studio, but this is the 12-inch. You can see there is a slight difference in the handle, or the blade rather. This is more hefty as a chopper, wider belly, and just wider all over here. You can see here has actually a thinner neck, and I think that makes it easier as a clearing tool. And personally for me, in terms of weight for 10 inches, I do like this pattern. The size is working out very well, so I'm going to be using it over the next few weeks or months, and then I'll kind of maybe give an update or just an overview of the various parangs that I have. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have this particular parang or a similar MY Parang, do share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.